It is time to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening in other parts of the world, including Liberia. Welcome to a very special edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on this beautiful Wednesday night as we come to you from Detroit. Some heard the name, some heard people talk about them. You've gotten the opportunity to put the face to the voice. Invite a few friends so that we can together have a great time tonight. This is the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, the giant. Ash for the giant garland, and now you know, man. Oh man, let's have fun. Mr. Alvin Pruitt is in the building. Hello, Alvin. How's everything? Let us show hope you're all having a great time tonight. Very shortly, at 6 o'clock, as soon as we get signal from our special guest, District Number 2 Representative, Grand Crew County, Councilor J. FONATI KOFFA, will be live from Liberia via satellite on Brace Radio Africa. Mr. Clive Biowart, Prince Andrews, Mark Ahmed, Arthur Bennett. Oh man, don't be selfish now. Show the video. You might learn something tonight. That now you know, man. Again, just in case you're celebrating the birthday today, I'd like to say congratulations. And let us show hope that you live to see many, many more birthdays to come. Félicitations. Amici Salonki à personne et à rien. Venez danser. Merci pour votre contribution. Et puis, merci pour votre invitation. Oscar Ernesto Jr. He said that the great giant of our generation, I'm following from Tokyo, Istanbul. Garvin Cooper is joining us from Canada as well. Oh, man. So in just a little bit, we're going to bring up close to the camera the Honorable J. FONATI KOFFA. He's in the building. Ribbon Harker is also here tonight from Charlotte, North Carolina. And also, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'd like to say hello. I know this is our unusual time, but just try to get adjusted a little bit as we bring to you this very special edition of ASHFORD GARLEY Live on this Wednesday night. This is about 10 p.m. in Liberia, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are coming to you from Detroit, Michigan. And we'd like to say a big thank you to our guests for such a prompt response and coming to do some type of clarification as it relates to the amendment of the telecommunications law in Liberia. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we introduce to you District Number 2 Grand Crew County Representative, Councilor J. FONATI KOFFA. Honorable KOFFA, hello and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Giant, and good evening to your audience too, both in Liberia and around the world.
Okay, as a tradition, I'll just give you a minute or two to give us your opening statement.
Oh, you know, we are in the middle of legislative session. I am preparing for round of bills, reviewing bills, and most of them are financial instruments on the heel of the budget that has been submitted. I agree to give you, I think we agreed to about 45 minutes tonight to make some clarifications. So I'm here, fire away.
Okay. In fact, let's get the ball rolling. Could you give us highlights on the amended Telecommunications Act of 2007, which was in fact passed by the House of Representatives on August the 11th, 2020, which proposed to expand the telco services and become a GSM operator?
Okay, so that is not correct. The Telecommunication Act of 2007 designated LibTelco as a national operator. As a national operator, they can do GSM, they can do other infrastructure, they can do anything in the telecommunication sector. So as a national operator, they already have that right. The problem was this, that we noticed from the law that brought about the amendments, was there was certain clarification on what privileges LibTelco had as a national operator, because there was this inherent tension between LibTelco and the regulator, the Liberian Telecommunications Authority, the LTA. I think the LTA was construing LibTelco's status of a national operator to be narrowly defined, more like a private operator. The sector chair, who is Honorable Isaac Rowland, throughout his oversight, saw that the designation of LibTelco as a national operator and the privileges granted with it was not in line to international best practices, as you have other national operators like British Telecom, Dutch Telecom, China Telecom, and those people. So he proffered an amendment that did two things. First, it clarified that the designation of a national operator meant that this is the government-owned operator, a corporation for which the government had 100% share and was engaged in the telecommunications sector. And as a result, certain privileges are afforded to the Liberian people and the Liberian government, accrued to it. So that amendment, the amendment sought to just clarify those roles and responsibilities so as to give clearer directions to the LTA when it is evaluating an application for a GSM license or an infrastructure license or other licenses that the national operator will apply for. Why did this come about? LibTelco has been around, but the current LibTelco management have done very well in the area of technology, right? As a matter of fact, my Celcom data or my Lone Star data, it will cost me about $20 to watch a Netflix movie. Telco internet, I can watch unlimited Netflix movies for a month for about $90. Okay, so you can see that increasingly their technology and their operations have some economies of scale and value to the Liberian people. You know, they've done very well with the technology, and it is in that context that the Telecommunications Committee, in its oversight, decided to proffer an amendment so that it can make it easier for them to expand their other services and give more value for the money to the Liberian public.
So in terms of expanding the services as it relates to GSM, you just said that there's this component that has always been there with LibTelco, just in case they wanted to expand the services, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it means that
the question now is, when LibTelco goes to the LTA, is it going to pay $15 million for a GSM license, approximately, that a private operator would pay for? The answer to that question for us will be no, because you're asking the government to pay the government. Okay, even if there has to be some payment, when it can be done in a way that gives more flexibility to the government to accrue, take money from one agency to the other agency. So those are the kind of things we try to get the LTA to understand when it is dealing with LibTelco as a national operator.
Now, let me ask you this. What were those peculiar services to be provided by LibTelco that the people are not already enjoying?
There will be there's not necessarily a peculiar service. This was not designed to make LibTelco this was not designed for Telco to come in to do extra services, but only to improve the market. As I told you, I'll give you an example on the issue of data. Telco has and increasingly been recognized by people who use their service as the best internet in the country. They are expanding into other infrastructure, and they may, I don't know, they may expand into GSM. I think there's certainly, from the eyes of the Telecommunications Committee, based on our committee hearing and consultation, they wish, based on their performance, they will expand into GSM. So it's providing competition that will provide better service. The other thing that the Telecommunications Committee was concerned about increasingly is you have the security sector, the government sector, that depends on their telecommunications on private operators, right? There has even been allegation where a private operator shut down their GSM service for political reasons. That may not have been proven, but the allegation was out there, okay? So it makes sense if we have a national operator where the government can operate in service that no private operator can shut them down, even though that will be illegal. But by the time they do it and you take them to court and fine them, the damage has already been done. So I think the idea of a national operator is an idea that has, it was recognized in 2007, but now it's being operationalized because you have a more technologically focused telco management that started into internet and now, you know, are moving their services. And so that's all this is about.
So what are the perceived challenges or calculated risks for Telco to operate as a GSM company compared to other would-be competitors?
Well, I think number one, Telco has to have the investment because although it will be a little cheaper, I believe, for them because they've already put up some towers and stuff. But I'm not a GSM person, so and certainly I'm not on the committee. I can tell you what it takes to provide a GSM, but I think there will be some investment costs. That will be one of the challenges. But certainly, when it comes to economies of scale, we will be able to, as a national operator, for example, say, look, Telco, you are the national operator. There are certain underserved areas. Go in my district, for example. Okay, if you go in Grand Crew, there are whole areas of my district that are not covered by GMS services because it is not profitable for the GSM companies who are private operators. They're here to make a profit. And because of COVID-19, I'm glad they're making huge profit. MTN announced the other day that their profit went up by 9%. 2 months before that, it had gone up by 11%. Okay, remember, MTN is a South African company. Orange is an Ivorian and French company. When they make their money, it goes to South Africa, it goes to France or Ivory Coast. Okay, so you have Telco now that we can say as a national operator, because we have given you some benefits and privileges, you have to go to Grand Crew and you have to put in those towers, even if you don't make a profit today, to serve populations that need to be served. Now we have a universal access program that does that, but having a GSM operator that will also be able to expand in those services that worry first about services to the public and not about the bottom line, it's also not a bad idea. And I think when if they come into the market, you will see that the competition will be heightened and the cost of GMF services will go down. You know, so I don't see a downside to this. I think the telco needs to find a way to get the investment to move into the areas they want to move in. As I said, they are already putting up tower. They are already doing a lot of infrastructure work. They have internet. And so why not the next best thing?
Now, based on what you just said, Honorable KOFFA, MTN is a South African country. Orange is from the Ivory Coast or even France. Now, you mentioned Telco. Now, one might be thinking that there's something in there for you. That's one of the reasons why you are championing this effort to amend the telecommunication law. How do you respond to that?
Okay, first of all, it's not my bill. I didn't introduce the bill. I didn't write it. I had nothing to do with its introduction. It was assigned to my committee. Here is how we operate in the House. Because the bill emanated from the chair of the sector, Honorable Isaac Rowling, there's a conflict of interest for him to preside over the hearings and the championing of the bill. Before, the bill was assigned to 2 committees. the Post and Telecommunications Committee, and the Judiciary Committee, we are chair. So the ranking member of the joint committee is me, okay? In terms of processing the amendments, which was introduced on July 9th, okay? You know, some people talk about 5G, introduced on July 9th. The House kicked it back out for further reading and further study and further consultation before it came back up yesterday. So while on the floor, it's my job to make some clarifications to members and to shepherd the bill according to the recommendation of the Joint Committee. The Joint Committee recommended that it pass. I have to work for its passage, okay? I have no personal interest. One thing I do in everything I do is I do not represent or I do not get on the floor when there are clients that I have interest in business on the floor. I don't get on the floor at all. I don't even go to sessions. So I have no interest in the issue of the telco. The bill was not drafted by me. It's not my bill. But having been assigned to judiciary, where we look at the legal language to ensure that it is correct, we look at the intent and purposes to show that it is constitutional. It is my job then, having presented the report on the floor, to make sure that the bill passed.
Now, something that has been a breather for the masses during the previous administration. What has been difficult for this government of Liberia to restore the 3-day free calls for the masses as it was in during the Ellen Johnson administration?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Remember, you know, this is a misnomer. Liberians like free things, right? But unfortunately, at some point, free is going to break the system down, right? This was not a government-mandated program, 3-day free call. It's not a government-mandated program. You're in Detroit. I'm not sure who the majority of telecommunications over there, but when I'm in Maryland, I use T-Mobile, right? When T-Mobile wants to get customers, they offer some promotionals. Like they would tell me, if you sign up with T-Mobile today, you will get 1 month free. You follow me? The 3-day free call was an attempt by Cellcom, who was the second guy in the market, right, to get more customers. Except 3-day free call, then all of a sudden became forever, okay? To the point where it brought down the telecommunications sector. If you look at the trend and trajectory of Lone Star, okay, Lone Star was facing difficulty. Had you continued very long on the 3-day free call, if Lone Star wants to admit, MTN was going to unload them, and as an operator, there probably was going to be no more in the next couple of years, okay? The elimination of the 3-day free call was an attempt by the LTA, not the telco, the regulator, to say, look, we cannot sit down and let the operator and have a sector where we have only one operator, which at this point, when Orange came in, Orange took over from Cellcom, where we will have only one operator. So therefore, we are going to establish, because look at another thing from a tax perspective. On a 3-day free call, the operator is not paying any tax because it's zero he's making. And so 0 times 0 is 0. So he's not paying 30% of 0 will be 0. So he's not paying any tax on the 3-day free call you're getting. And that was bottoming out the market, and where it was going to be a single operator. The regulator stepped in and said, no, we're not going to let this happen. Therefore, we have a floor price, a minimum at which the operator can go. Nobody is stopped from doing the 3-day free call, but now it costs the operator, so that the operator makes a judgment. Do I want to run 3-day free call for 5 years, or do I want to run it for 1 month to get customers? Promotionals in this industry are designed for a certain period of time for you to get customers. It's not designed to be a giveaway forever. And occasionally they do it, and that's what happened. The operators can still give 3 days free call, but now if they give 3 days free call, it's going to cost them, and they're going to have to pay the taxes on the free giveaway, like T-Mobile would do, like your operator in Detroit would do. That's all, to make it in a more sensible manner in terms of the 3-day free call issue.
Now, Honorable Representative, how can we assure that the government of Liberia would not strangulate other competitors? And I keep saying other competitors because I don't want to mention the GSM company by name, because nobody paid me for this. Now, just to overtake the market again, how can we assure that the government of Liberia would not strangulate other competitors just to overtake the market?
Because it is not in the interest of the government to strangulate the market. Remember, the two operators in Liberia are some of the biggest taxpayers, right? There is no wish or desire to drive them out of the country. What will happen here, you will find, is the cost of data and services will be more reasonable from a profit standpoint, and they don't want to leave today a lot of infrastructure in the country that they've invested in. The cost of data will be more reasonable, and underserved areas, again, like my district number 2 people, will have access to GSM services because the driving force of a lit telco will be more public service than profit margin. But definitely, I trust the LTA to balance the sector, and that's what brought this amendment. LTA was going to say, look, LTA was saying, look, lit telco, we're going to treat you like a private operator. We're not going to let you come in here and bottom up the industry either. So it is that balance that we try to create by that amendment, and I think it will accomplish it. At the end of the day, it will be a win-win for everybody. Nobody will make astronomical profits, and nobody will be losing.
Now, speaking of the folks, the common man being able to afford a wage, why wouldn't the legislature lead to ensure that Lutako provides computer labs with internet connectivity on campuses of the University of Liberia, especially in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, that is not Liptelco's job. That is what is called the Universal Access Program. There is a fund for that. Every time you buy data or you use telecommunication services, there is money set aside to provide those kind of services, right? We in District 2 were the benefit of that because they just put in on the Universal Access Program a base station and a tower for internet services for which the telcos will be able to jump onto and put on their devices at very little cost, investment cost to them. That question then would be one that would go to the regulator, which is the LTA, to say, why don't we use universal access funds to provide these internet services? It's certainly available. I mean, it's certainly an idea that is on the table. The question is the universal access fund big enough to serve those needs? And that's a question that will have to go to the regulator. And I'll be glad to ask them and send you a text on what they said. Or you can call them on your show.
Now, I heard you say this quite a few times. Critics of this, I heard you say this, that this is not your bill, but critics of this amendment are saying that you and your colleagues championing this cause have been giving kickbacks. Do you care to comment?
Well, our corporate interests making all those allegations, kickbacks for what? Who is giving us kickback? Like Telco don't have a dime. We don't take no kickback on it. This is actually, honestly, again, an attempt to make sure that the national operator becomes operable. That's all it is. Kickback from whom? The telco doesn't have any money, and that's just not the normal way we do business over there. I certainly don't do business that way.
Now, I asked you earlier about the affordability of the university students, and you said this is not the responsibility of the code. Now, let me rephrase this. Critics, again, are saying the legislature would not make that happen because this will require students to make out-of-pocket expenses for this proposed new service. How do you respond?
Which one? The service of having internet on campuses?
That's right.
Well, without Libtelco as a GSM or a national operator, you have to go to the private market. And if you go to the private market, they are not going to give it to you free. As I said, if there's a possibility to use universal access funds, then I think the LTA should explore that. There are discussions on the way, I believe, because the telecommunications company, I don't think are going to give it for free. Or if they're going to give it for free, how do you monitor it? For example, the issue here is not that free internet on campus, that can be done. But the issue is, in the age of COVID-19, you may be having classes remotely. So you want a student at home to log in onto his internet and be able to attend class. How do you monitor that is the question. And I think that's what they're trying to resolve. You're making me out of a telecommunications expert, and I'm really not. You should try to get one of the people who on that committee or one of the LTA people to come and explain it to you, because I'm sure I'm bashing it out some way or the other.
Well, Honorable KOFFA, thanks for your clarification. I would just open the telephone line. Perhaps somebody out there has a question for you. And folks, if you're out there and have a question for Honorable FONATI KOFFA, the number to call is 248-979-1718. Once again, the telephone number to call is 248-979-1718. That is if you have questions for the Honorable FONATI KOFFA this afternoon. This night, again, just a special presentation of ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa. The last time we were here, Honorable KOFFA, was about a little over a month ago. How's Grand Crew and the people of Grand Crew?
Since I was here, we went from 0 case to 11 cases, COVID-19, simply because we had an outbreak at Sastan Hospital. And I'm pleased to report, I think we are down to 3 and counting. Our people still continue to be patient. We still have difficulty in observing health protocols. We still continue to reinforce those norms to them, but they are not any different than the general population in Liberia as we observe. We are hoping that all of our Liberian citizens can observe the health protocol so we can get this pandemic behind us.
Okay, again, folks, we want to at this time open up the telephone line just in case you have questions for the Honorable FONATI KOFFA. Again, my responsibility is to protect my guests. You can ask any question of your choice, but all we ask is be civil, respect the platform, respect our guests, and also we have Murphy on the line from Minnesota. Hello, Murphy. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, ASHFORD, and good evening, the Honorable Man in studio.
Good evening.
Let me say thank you so much. This is my first time really hearing you on the air, and you spoke so eloquently, and like you said, like you are an expert in telecommunications. My concern is, like you have lived outside of Liberia, is the people who are going to be affected by whatever policies or programs that will be implemented. They are supposed to be told, I mean, how many times, they'll be, because in Liberia, it's almost like the government or nobody cares about, let's just do it to them, the Liberian people, whatever we want to do, we push it down on them. How do we move forward by explaining to the masses in whichever way or form that we are going to do this? This is going to be implemented. No, so if you don't do that, Representative KOFFA, speculations will always go the wrong way, and you will always have to come and clarify. But let me say thank you very much for your explanation.
Thank you. That Mr. Murphy out of Minnesota. And there was another person online that we just lost them. Go ahead, Honorable KOFFA. You just heard this young man. Hold on. I think we got him.
Okay.
Go ahead. I don't know what's with the phone. Go ahead, Honorable KOFFA.
Okay, so I gotta disagree in one sense in terms of explaining, right? Because our sessions are conducted live. They are conducted openly. They are conducted in public, right? We have very few closed sessions, especially when it has to do with issues of the House business. You have many legislative reporters that are on the floor. There are ample opportunity, and we have several talk shows every day that bring on these topics. In a democracy, we have what we call the fourth branch of government. That branch of government is responsible to explain, to question, to make sure we clarify those things. And we are glad, like I took my time. When you called me, ASHFORD, I have a lot of work to do. I said, look, I'll come on for 45 minutes to make the clarification. I think this is what we expect from all of our members of the fourth estate. What happened is usually corporate interests come and make denunciations on bills or stuff that they don't like, and then they start to impugn people's reputation regarding that. And so everything degenerates. But it's all in the open. It's all in the open. There's no secret. This particular amendment is very simple because all it did was just clarify. Libtelco has been a national operator since 2007. It has had the ability to obtain a GSM license since 2007. All we did was clarify some of the privileges it had because we wanted to eliminate the tension between Libtelco and LTA, who is the national operator.
Again, we're going to make available our platform. Sometimes people say things that are far from the truth, and if you keep quiet, you don't come out to clarify that, it makes it seem like they are saying the truth, and you are in. On the other hand, have not been genuine to the people of Liberia. So our station is open to you whenever you have to distance yourself from something that is not making sense to the public. You always welcome. We have our 610 number. 6494 is the last 4 digits of your number. Tell us your name, please.
Good evening, Mr. Garley. How you doing?
Good. Too blessed to be stressed, as always. God is good. Welcome to the show.
Okay. Good evening to our guest in the studio. I
Good evening.
don't have a question to ask, but I just have a comment to make. Our guest in the studio, he is good at cutting deals. And most especially in the early time he did it, he always get a kickback. There will be no way a certain representative will come to explain government policy, and he says that he's not in the committee. And take my word to the bank. This situation we're discussing tonight are all been approved, and everything going to go on smoothly. And definitely you'll get a kickback, and there's something behind it. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Representative.
Well, it's part of the characteristic nonsense for which I usually don't do radio shows or TV shows or what have you. Now, listen to that. He makes a blanket statement. Again, we do what we do in spite of these kinds of personal attacks, in spite of these kinds of sweeping blanket allegations, tarnishing our reputation. What deals did I cut? I'm a lawyer. I'm supposed to cut deals. That's my job. What deal has I cut as a legislator? You do not have any evidence to come here on this platform and make such a sweeping and blanket statement on that. I'm a lawyer. I'm a corporate lawyer. I went from litigation to corporate. I cut deals. I'm not ashamed of that. I have not cut a deal in the legislature to take a kickback. The caller is just trying again to do what usually Liberians are good at, which is just impugning people's reputation based on blanket allegations and sweeping statements.
Now, this is of the topic. You can respond if you want to, but I believe as a public figure, your life is not private.
Sure.
You worked stayed in the United States of America. A few years ago, you got into some trouble, and of course, you paid the price. You left the country, went to Liberia, and you frequent the United States of America. Can you explain to us where are you and what has happened? People are still looking at you in a very negative way. And people who have interacted with you, they're saying you mean well for Liberia. As a matter of fact, there's nothing such as what you've been described of. How do you respond, sir?
No, I think the people who look at me in a negative way are majority of the people who are in the United States, who I think are my critics. Now, let's look at the situation. 20 years ago, as a young lawyer, I was involved in commingling of funds. I reported myself and I abide by whatever the sanctions was. That occurred in the United States. In the United States today, I have a house. I go there frequently. I live there. I do things there. They do not ask me the kind of questions that Liberians ask here in Liberia. The one thing is, since I have been to Liberia, I challenge anyone to say which client money I have eaten, which client I have destroyed, which deal I have cut to the detriment of the Liberian people, and all of that is all been allegations, okay, from some of those and emanating again from political opponents, okay. I have a stellar record here in Liberia, and I challenge anyone who can stand up and say they have not made a mistake in their life to come and throw this stone, okay. I will, again, I have planned on when I come to the States, because there's some of them carry the rumor, oh, he was deported and he can't come to the United States. I have a house in the US. I have family in the US. I do business in the US. So I was planning when I come there, all of those who want to challenge that can challenge that. but I'm not going to continue to live my life in a 20-year-old past. Okay? Come and judge me on what I have done since I have been in Liberia, since I have practiced law, talk to my clients, talk to the people I interact with, and then tell me, oh yes, that is his pattern of behavior. I think all of this is for people who have either a political axe to grind, personal jealousy, and all those kind of things that for them, it would have been better if I die and just never be heard for again, and they are disappointed that is not the case. I will continue to serve Liberia in the best way I can. I have performed here with integrity, as I have learned in life, and all of us will learn in life for our mistakes. And I will not apologize to it from no one, because I have moved on. Even the American people that you call in every day and say, oh, you did this in America, you did that in America. When I go in America, they have no problem with me. So what is the problem you have with me in Liberia? Let's talk about Liberia. Let's talk about what I have done in Liberia. Take my record in Liberia and challenge it for something that I have done wrong, and you won't find it. So they go back to 20-year-old history. And when you dig in some of their clauses, you find that it is amazing to you. So, I generally tend not to address that. It is all part of the fodder because Liberians like to do it. But I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to say that. I will not continue to address it because I really don't owe Liberians an explanation on a 20-year-old incident in which it was a genuine mistake, which I never ran away from, I never hid from. I reported myself. They did not report me because they were not at my law firm.
And
that is what I have to say about that.
And I'm glad that you have addressed this. Hopefully, we'll put this behind us. And
we'll put it behind you, ASHFORD, because they want it to be a political issue and a distraction. But this is the last I'm going to address it.
Thank you for that clarification. We have Mr. George Lobo on the line from Arizona. Hello, George. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garley. How you doing today, sir?
Good. Too blessed to be stressed, as
Beautiful.
always.
Let me say hi to the Honorable Man, Mr. FONATI KOFFA as well. Thank you for making yourself available to the public and coming to answer these hard questions from us. I just wanted to, real quick, I ain't got much to say. I just wanted to tell him thank you for one thing he just did, owning up to whatever he said happened 20 years ago. And that's what I wanted to say thank you for. Because I've read extensively about it, and I'm glad he came up and admitted to it, and he said it was an honest mistake. He owned up to it. I mean, no one is infallible. Even those of us who live in America that people have a great deal of respect for. Some of us have made mistakes in this country, whether it was credit card we didn't pay off on. I just wanted to say that not everybody would do it, and I think, Mr. KOFFA, here's my advice to you as a public figure. I don't want you to say, oh, I've addressed it, I would never address it. Because if you refuse to address it down the road again, someone might say, oh, he's hiding something. As long as you are going to be in the public domain, you just have to understand it's going to come out. So what you have done today is you've owned up to it. The fact of the matter, you said you have assets there, you have a house in America. When you become a public servant, and you know that better, these are things that will come out, whether it's going to come from your detractors or your opponent. You should always be ready for these moments. So I just want you to understand, when you say I would never, then the next time someone might want to bring you out to use it as a means because they feel that, oh, you've said that you will shy away from it. You cannot, like you said, it's been 20 years ago. We all have made mistakes and we should learn from it. And I believe in giving people a second chance. I must just say to you, I'm being very, very proud of some of the things you've taken. You are well articulated when it comes to our representatives in the House there. I just want to see, like you said, one thing I gave you credit, your refusal not to run for the Senate. And you said you were given the opportunity for 6 years. Not too many Liberians today will do it because we've seen that. And I think that was a good saving you did for the country because you running, if you had won, that would have created another means for a by-election. I want to thank you for that. I hope that we can see more from people like you. We might disagree on some issues. There have been positions you've taken that I don't like, but I want to see more lawmakers who will stand up for what is right and do the best thing for the people. That's all I call for. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lobo. Thanks for calling. And if Honorable KOFFA wants to respond to what you just said.
Okay, granted, ASHFORD, maybe I was a little bit too emotional when I said I would never address it. What I wouldn't do is allow it to be the focal point of my life because it was 20 years ago. It is distant memory. I stand on the record that I have had since, and especially here in Liberia. In everything I do, I've learned and I've moved on, and that's how I conduct myself. everything you hear about me most of the time, just call me like you called me today. Say, look, my man, I heard, X, Y, and Z. Most journalists call me, and I just walk them through a lot of issues, sometimes privately. After we do that, they tend not to come up with a story or tend not to come up with it because they find out it's much about ado about nothing. Look, I exist in the public eye, I agree, and I conduct myself and try to conduct myself as such. Will I continue to make mistakes? Yeah, I will make mistakes. I'm not going to make the kind of mistake I made 20 years ago, but certainly I will make some mistakes too. I'm a human being. But right. Yes, I try my best to make myself available. I just hope that when we're doing this discourse, we're not doing it personally. We're doing it because we are genuinely having either disagreements, agreements, or we want some clarifications as you have done. And I'll be glad to do it. And I promise the caller, I will never say never on that issue. I think appropriately, like you asked it, I can address it. When it's done in a manner that tends to be degrading and derogatory, I tend to speak over it.
And I want to say a big thank you for your accessibility and taking enough time to respond to our requests. And again, finally, is there anything else you have to say just before we call this a night?
No, other than the fact that, one of the callers said, I think he mistakenly identified me as an expert in this telecommunications sector. I'm not. Everything I know is because, as a lawmaker, when these bills come out, I have to learn it. I'm the chair of judiciary. I'm the lawyer of the house. And I do it as I do any client. I'm not an expert, but when you bring your case to me, I have to learn about your case. I have to learn about the issue. So I learn entirely about the issue so that when I pass off on a bill from Judiciary Committee, it is on what my professor at UNC School of Law used to call it's on all fours. So the bill is on all fours. I can speak to it simply because I studied it. I knew what it was about. I knew what the concern of the committee and its oversight was. I knew what the lawmaker, the sponsor of the bill wanted. And so I can say it. I went beyond. I have to study it. And that's what I do here. I'm in my home office. I'm going to spend the next 3 hours looking at other bills, especially financial instruments. And I'm not a financial expert that coming up before the House in the next 3 weeks before we get to the budget bill. I have to study it. I will call the relevant ministers and their deputies to ask questions. I make my notes because when I put my head up to vote on an issue, you can bet I know what I'm talking about, and that's what I try to do. So thank you for having me. It was a good 45 minutes of my time.
Thank you, and I'd like to
anytime.
I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you for watching. My professional colleague, Mr. Charles B. Yates, is on here. Charlie, what's up, my man? It's been a long time. I am coming to Liberia in November, okay? Solomon 9, Jeremy Bob Pelinan. David O'Hare, Kalanzai, folks, I'm afraid that's all the time I have to be with you. God willing, I will be back tomorrow night with Quench Tea. Until then, please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. There's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see okra and swallow bone because you can't hide your nakedness from beef in pocket. When God bless you, don't say that medicine. When women know your friend black man. This has been yours truly, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia. As for the giant that now you know me calling. Have a good night.
Thank you.